It all began in 1895. Salem Church, as we know it today, was birthed when a small group of believers gathered in a prayer cottage in Dayton to experience God together. Brother and Sister Straker and Sister Rose Spellman opened their living rooms to prayer, worship, and the Word. Ordinary people with extraordinary faith. From those humble gatherings, revival spread across the city. Tent meetings filled Dayton's neighborhoods with preaching, prayer, and songs of salvation. Among those touched by the gospel was a 12-year-old boy named John Turner, who would soon answer the call to pastor Salem's first congregation. The church was young. People were finding their way to God, and His presence was unmistakably with them. Just days before the floodwaters of Wolf Creek and the surrounding rivers broke their banks in 1913, believers gathered at that very creek for a baptism, an outward sign of a new life and hope. When the Dayton flood struck soon after, this same faith community became a refuge for neighbors who had lost everything. From the very beginning, experiencing God at Salem looked like being a loving neighbor even through the storms.
I saw a vision for a church that was 75 years old, that really wanted to go forward, that wanted to move, that wanted to have a new destiny, a new vision, and a new involvement in the life of the world. There were other sheep not of our fold, and we wanted to bring them in. I was convinced of that vision.
Through the hardships of the Great Depression and the uncertainty of war, Salem grew in faith. They sang through the struggle, prayed through the pain, and gave even when they had little to give, sacrificing money, comfort, and personal luxuries so that others could grow in their faith became the regular language of love for the people of Salem Church. Known as the Singing Church, Salem filled the airwaves with music that lifted weary hearts. Vacation Bible School began in 1932, helping children discover their purpose and love Jesus early. Even when snowstorms shut down the city, the gospel never stopped. In 1950, a blizzard couldn't keep the pastor and a faithful church member from broadcasting the good news live on the radio. Through every season, their steadfast faith and sacrificial love became the melody that defined Salem's story.
But I can also tell you that change is also the agent of growth, and that the trust we've enjoyed is not an end in itself. It's a beginning of a greater, wider trust, and we have not begun to reach the boundaries of what God can do in this place.
In 1955, Salem purchased 5 acres of farmland north of town, stepping boldly into the future. The Salem Avenue site marked a new chapter for the church, a place to extend its reach, share its mission beyond downtown, and enter a new season of practicing purpose. The move to Salem Avenue became more than a change in address. It became a statement of faith, a tangible step toward growing Salem's impact in the community. By March of 1957, the church began living out its mission in the new community, launching a Sunday school at Meadowdale Elementary. 35 members committed to this mission, and on the very first Sunday, 160 children showed up, many stepping into a church for the very first time. On Easter Sunday, 1959, ground was broken for the first phase of the new building. While it was being built, the congregation moved to the Meadowdale Elementary for 8 months, where there were 484 in attendance on the first Sunday. And on February 6, 1960, the church moved to its new location and became known as the Salem Avenue Church of God. Through the 1960s, the 70s, and especially in the 1980s, Salem experienced a vibrant season of growth. Attendance swelled, ministries expanded, and the church became a steady, influential presence in Dayton. It was a time full of energy and possibility as families found hope and community within its walls. That momentum led to a bold step of faith, purchasing more than 60 acres on Southway Road. Building during a major labor strike created unexpected challenges, including fears that materials might be taken from the site. So, Salem members organized overnight shifts, the watchman on the wall, guarding the grounds and praying over the future home of their church. Their financial and physical sacrifice helped make the Southway Road facility a reality in 1981, marking a milestone shaped by determination, unity, and trust in God's leading.
Please understand, even though our congregation, even though we are over 100 years old, we, like every congregation, must continue to grow and mature and learn if we desire to minister to a growing and a changing world around us. Now let us also be mindful of this fact. The message never changes.
I have sung in choirs since I've been 13 years old. And when I walked in here and I saw that choir, I thought, I've got to be a part of that.
And starting Sunday school class with other married couples was really probably the best decision that we made early on, because
we'd have been lost.
As they were equipped, families took their next steps with Jesus. Students discovered their purpose. Mission teams were sent out across the world, and pastors and leaders from around the country came to be trained in ministry.
In September of 1981, Carolyn and I and our 3 children were between churches, and some friends of ours invited us to come down for a worship service here at the church. And to our wonderful surprise, it happened to be the very first Sunday that worship was going to take place in this building.
I know that Richard and I were both really moved and felt like we wanted to go to the altar to pray about it. We weren't at the altar more than just a few seconds, and I felt something behind me turn, and I looked around, and all 3 of our children had followed us to the altar.
Because of the sacrifice and generosity of the people of Salem, we continue to be known not just as a church in Dayton, but as a church for Dayton, for the country, and for the world, bringing more of heaven to the 937 and beyond. Every baptism, every service, every song told the same story. God is faithful, and His people are devoted to His purpose. As a new century began, Salem found itself at one of its lowest points. Painful division had left deep wounds, and ministries that once flourished, especially kids, students, and outreach, had nearly come to a halt. But even in that valley, God was preparing to rebuild. A new vision began to form, one marked by unity, humility, and a renewed dependence on God. Once again, the people of Salem chose sacrifice over comfort. Through the Generations Project, they gave generously to secure the church's future, eliminating debt, fueling the mission forward, and committing hundreds of thousands of dollars so that generations to come could know and follow Jesus.
Back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, Salem was facing some challenging times financially. Interest rates were high, making our mortgage payment almost impossible. We were on the brink of foreclosure. I'll never forget driving to the church late one evening to meet with the bank officials. And there I saw a number of our brothers and sisters, young and old, single and married, standing outside the conference room, waiting to co-sign the note that would ensure that the ministry and mission of Salem Church of God would go forward. Thank God for a giving church.
We just said, this is our church.
Yeah.
And we're not leaving. We're going to push through it.
As the years moved into the 2010s and 2020s, God did a deep work of healing. Trust was rebuilt, relationships were restored, and Salem began to rediscover its calling.
We always saw God come through and provide in some miraculous way that nobody ever dreamed, maybe not even prayed about, I don't know. But we always saw it turn from the hard thing to something to rejoice in and thank Him for.
Building on a legacy that began decades ago with church plants in Centerville and Kettering, Salem's story of multiplication continues to unfold. God is writing new chapters through partnerships that reach far beyond our walls. From the mountain village of Santa Maria de Jesus, Guatemala, where El Centenario is a thriving congregation, to Radiant Lighthouse in Greenville, and a new church plant taking root in Seattle. Each partnership is more than a project. It's a story of faith taking flight. Salem isn't just sending support. It's sending people, prayers, and purpose to places where the gospel can take root and grow.
Well, yes, we have wonderful worship and wonderful ministries, but we are not a church that sits inside of our walls. It's our outreach. And that leads to, of course, people coming to Jesus Christ when they see our love for the world.
Pastor David Grubbs, a senior pastor of Salem Church at that time, invited a group of us to come up to Salem to attend a lay witness training event. Not only was I equipped in personal evangelism at that event, but one evening I was also filled with the Holy Spirit in one of the evening services. Little did I realize at that event that just a few months later, God would be calling me into full-time Christian ministry. And I most certainly didn't realize at that equipping event that 18 years later, I would be called to become the Salem Church of God senior pastor. Thank God for an equipping church.
From our first internship in 1972 to the residencies and mentoring initiatives of today, leadership development has remained central to Salem Church's mission, building a pipeline of leaders for the church's future and the advancement of God's kingdom. We've long embraced our dual identity as both an equipping and sending church, and that commitment continues unwavering to this day. Generation after generation, faithful choices and surrendered hearts have kept Salem from becoming a monument to yesterday and instead a movement toward tomorrow. Through the devotion of ordinary people with extraordinary faith, God has built a house of hope, not a museum of memories. A place where faith is lived daily, where families are changed by the gospel, and where people continue to take their next step with Jesus.
Through the good times and the difficult seasons, God has been faithful, and the people of Salem Church have been faithful. Whatever opportunity we have today is directly tied to the sacrifice, the generosity, and really the risks that the previous generation took. God has and is still bringing more of heaven to the 937 and beyond through Salem Church. And people have been taking their next step with Jesus for 130 years and counting. And this year, as we celebrate 130 years of the faithfulness of God and the faithfulness of God's people, it's clear God has and He is still bringing more of heaven to the 937 and beyond through Salem Church. Salem has been and continues to be a church that helps people experience God. I mean, really experience God and enjoy being in a relationship with Him. Just as Salem Church was born from a prayer meeting that would then later host tent revivals, and people would experience God through incredibly catalytic worship experiences for people of all ages, and then equip individuals through private spiritual practices to grow in their faith throughout the week. May we be people who don't just know about God, but really experience God and enjoy God's presence in our lives. And when you experience God, then you grow in faith. I'm talking about finding real freedom from what keeps you stuck in life. And then we grow in love and joy and peace and gentleness and kindness and generosity, just like our early brothers and sisters did in smaller groups and then through serving experiences. And as a result, the spiritual temperature rises in our lives. And we become individuals who then practice purpose, where you discover your God-given purpose, the real reason why God created you. Salem has and must continue to be a community that helps people discover this, where they know why they were created, why God created them for life, and then equips them to live out their call with passion and conviction. As a result, we will be people and a church that reproduces our influence and makes a difference where we live, work, learn, and play. which is what we're all called to be about anyway, to become disciples who make disciples. By developing more leaders, by planting more churches, Salem is a church and must continue to be a church that embodies a faith that's meant to be passed along to others. From 1895 until today, one thread runs through every chapter, and that's life change. And that's life change. God has used Salem to heal hearts, to strengthen families, to raise up leaders for more than a century. And the story isn't over, it's still being written through us. This is our moment to keep it going, to experience God deeply in our lives, to grow stronger in our faith, to discover and live out our call, to build on the generations of faithfulness before and expand our influence for the kingdom's sake right here and right now. Because the same gospel that changed lives then is still changing lives today through you and through me. Praise God for 130 years of ministry and seeing lives change. And the need for a life-giving church is as great now as ever. So Salem, may God continue to bring more of heaven in our lives and through our lives.
Are we done?